Well, hello, my name's Ian Gray, and in this episode of the Confident Live Marketing Show, we're talking about how to launch your YouTube channel to boost your business. And I've got Matt Hughes, the king of video, in the house today. Can't wait to share this with you. Let's get on with the show. But first,
welcome to the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Gray.
Helping you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video.
Optimize your mindset and communication and increase your confidence in front of the camera.
Get confident with the tech and gear.
And get confident with the content and marketing.
Together, we can go live!
well, hello. How's it going? This is episode 114 of the Confident Live Marketing Show. This is the show that helps you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video. And in today's show, we're going to be talking about how to launch your YouTube channel to boost your business. I've got Matt Hughes here, the king of video. Can't wait to share that with you. As always, if you want to be notified next time we go live, maybe you're listening to the podcast or watching the replay and you feel you've missed out, then all you need to do is go to confident.live/subscribe and you'll be notified next time we go live. I've also got my free confidence guide, how to be more confident in front of the camera. If you click on that, you'll get that for free. We go live every Tuesday and every Thursday with this show. And of course, the podcast comes out every Friday. So do check that out. Just go to iag.me/podcast and you can listen and subscribe to that. The show notes for this episode will be at iag.me/114 when the podcast comes out. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening, for watching. I really appreciate that, and I'm going to be bringing in Matt very shortly. But just before that, I want to introduce my first sponsor for today, which is RESTREAM. I use RESTREAM for all of my shows. It allows me to broadcast to a plethora of different destinations. RESTREAM is really the complete multi-streaming suite for entrepreneurs, and it's getting better and better. There's so many amazing things that you can do with it. And I've got an amazing deal for you. You can get 1 month completely free. So here's a little bit more about RESTREAM.
Confident Live Marketing Podcast is proudly sponsored by RESTREAM. RESTREAM is the complete multi-streaming suite for entrepreneurs. It's the easiest way to broadcast live to over 30 destinations at the same time, including Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, and so much more. RESTREAM Studio makes it so simple to stream directly from your browser. Bring in guests and add your branding, videos, and graphics, and view and highlight comments from your destinations, all at the click of a button. Take RESTREAM for a test drive and get your first month completely free at iag.me/RESTREAM.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, the things seem to be on my Stream Deck at the moment seem to be taking a long time. So you'll have to I have to apologize if there's a slight delay between videos and me here. But that's what you get sometimes with live video. But anyway, just a big thanks to RESTREAM. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. Do check out that deal. Just go to iag.me/RESTREAM. Well, it is time to bring in my guest today, who is Matthew Hughes, who is the self-proclaimed king of video. In 2013, he started his video company that he ran for 7 years, creating video globally for one-man bands through to billion-dollar companies. In 2019, he started the King of Video brand to help small business owners and entrepreneurs confidently and consistently create video content. He does this with his Facebook Live 5-day challenge, the YouTube Bootcamp, and in the King of Video Academy, his online membership site. Let's bring in Matt. How are you doing, sir?
Well, that was an amazing introduction. I wish you could be around for all of my lives.
Yeah, just to kind of play the cheering sound. But we actually do have a whole crowd here watching live. Special COVID conditions, obviously, but
I see that. Shout out to the King, Tim says.
Yes, it's great to see. Thank you, Tim. Let's have a look at, just before we get on with the show, just look at some live people. So Tim is saying, shout out to the King. Katie is saying, is it windy up north? That may be affecting the internet or Tinternet. It might well be. It just might be my computer that's being a bit slow. I don't know. And Dewi is watching, saying, good morning. So great to see you, Dewi. Hope you're doing well. It's probably actually, do you know what it is, Matt? Often, like, what I don't know about you, but do you recommend a lot of things to your clients and your audience that you don't do yourself?
I want to say no, but the truth is obviously yes. Yeah. Do this, it'll make things so much better. Oh yeah, I should probably do that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think one of the things is that I always recommend to close as many apps running in the background down as possible. And I didn't do that. Yeah. So there we go. Anyway, while you're talking, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'll try and do some stuff in the background, and hopefully things will get better. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, like, what is this whole King of Video thing, and how did you get into all of this mad world that you're in? How did you get started with all of this? I'd love to know.
Yeah, well, the King of Video thing's dead easy to answer because my name's Matthew Hughes, and when I was Googling myself, I could only find like a UFC fighter, which clearly is not me, and also there's an author as well. So trying to beat a sports personality and an author on Google was never really going to work for me so well. So I was trying to find a personal brand that I could really love, and I searched like tongue in cheek for kingofvideo.co.uk, and it was available. So I was like, that's it, I'm having it. And that is literally where it came from. I don't know how people start businesses normally, or brands, but I always look for the domain names first. Like if the domain name's not available, I'm like, well, there's no point in having it then. So once I got the domain name, I was like, okay, let's get a logo, let's get, the hoodies and all that kind of stuff. And off we went from there. So that's really where it started. But, I've got a bit of a pedigree. As you mentioned before, I had a video production company for 7 years, and we filmed around the world, got to travel loads in the US and around Europe. So it's not like I've just decided one day, hey, I know what I'm talking about with video because I bought the domain name. I think I filmed something like 1,500 commercial videos in the last 7 or 8 years. So quite a lot there.
That's impressive. Yeah. It's like, how did you get into that? Like, did you like when you were 3, did you decide like video is what you wanted to do? Did you leave school thinking this is, because I'm always interested, like for me, like there's no way I was thinking about this. I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do when I left school, and I kind of fell into this. Was that the case for you, or were you a lot more, thinking about focusing
a little bit? So when I was about 8, maybe 10 years old, I was building computers. Like my passion was IT, and it has been for a long time. I was big into tech, and I had 20 years. I'm 37, 20 years. I started in professionally in tech when I was 17. And then it was only about 8 years ago, I became an IT contractor. IT contractor is very well paid, so I had lots of spare cash, and I met somebody that had just finished their video degree. They did a media production degree in Liverpool. And I was like, asked him what he was doing. He says, I'm looking for a job in Tesco or Asda or something like that, in retail. And I was like, no, forget about that. Let's start a video company. So it kind of really it was just something I decided to do at that time. I had no experience myself. I didn't know whether we'd make any money. I just thought this sounds like something really good to do. And so spent 20 grand on cameras and all that kind of stuff. And then decided to ask people to give us money for it. So I wish it was a more glamorous story, but that's
that's great. But you're kind of making everyone feel jealous, because like I quite often will say on this show, like, you don't need to spend $20,000 on a live video studio. unless you've got the money, you bootstrap it over time. And I'm sure you'd agree with that, but it makes us all jealous.
Hey,
at that
Ian,
point.
you talk about confidence on camera, and I love that because it is the first place people should start with anything really video-wise. And I often, when I do like live presentations, I often show my first Facebook Live, which I think was the 20th of March, 2017. So what's that, like 4 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago.
Something like that. Don't ask me.
And I've done 1,000 Facebook Lives on my profile alone since then. But I just remember that first time I had £10,000 worth of equipment around me to film because I'd been making these commercial videos for so long. And it was a truly terrible Facebook Live. Like, it's horrendous to watch because I just did what most people did. I overthought it. I'd got all this gear to try and take the emphasis, anything to take away from the fact that I was showing up on camera. And I was absolutely pooing myself. Like I was scared, which I think is where a lot of people start. So trust me, I jumped in at that point. I went live every day, every weekday for 6 months, pretty much, give or take the odd day. So I really jumped in with both feet at that point.
That is the way to do it. I always recommend don't give up. Just keep doing it. You'll probably be really bad at the start, but keep going. You
pretty much definitely will be really bad.
You will be. I'm being nice.
It's almost a guarantee, yeah.
Have you kept that video? Is it still out there?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I linked to it. No, I always say to people, keep it all. Yeah. Don't ever delete anything. Like, there's so much to learn and grow from your old experiences. And if we're talking about YouTube here, if you go and look at YouTube, the best channels are the ones where you can go and YouTube's got this switch to go oldest to newest. And when you see the oldest video and you go like Mr. Beast, go to Mr. Beast. He's got 60 million subscribers or something like that. Like, watch his first videos. The first 2 or 3 years of his videos were gaming videos where he wasn't on camera and it was just in gaming and talking about stuff. It was awful. Like, in my opinion, it was awful. Like, he got a great following doing it, but compare that to where he is now, completely different show, completely different YouTube style videos, So definitely looking back is such a wonderful thing to do because it really shows the journey people go through.
Love that. Well, I'm glad you've done that. Yeah, I think they should call that mode where you reverse to show the oldest first, embarrassing mode. I think that's what it should be called.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Love that, embarrassing mode.
Exactly. Well, let's have a look. So we've got some comments. I'm going to check this. Now, this wasn't working last time. My little Restream widget here wasn't working, but let's see if it is going to work today. So I'd be interested to know if anyone can comment whether it's going to pop up on the screen here. But I can see all the comments here, so I'm going to pop them up on the screen. So Katie says, we are the crowd. We've got Louise Brogan watching on LinkedIn Live. Great to see you, Louise. How are you doing? It's been a while since I've spoken to you. And we've also got Carl Sullivan in the house. Great to see. Oh, it is working. We have got some people coming up. It's just been slow. It's my computer. And Tim is saying, hello, Team T, and is also very impressed with your 1,500 videos. That's amazing. I'm just amazed that you kind of know how many you've done and how many live videos you've done. That's quite impressive.
So when it comes to the pre-recorded stuff, we used Vimeo. So, of course, when you use Vimeo, we delivered the videos to the clients via Vimeo, so we could see the counter. It was always going up, And with the live videos, I actually went through my Facebook feed and counted it because I was like, I wonder how many it's been. And because I knew the start date, I could go back and I just sort of counted the rows of videos. So it's fairly easy to keep track of this stuff. Cole's saying, how did you create topics for every day? I'm talking about a video for business here, and for anybody, a shout out to any of my solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, people that are doing business stuff every day. Because if you think for a second that you can't come up with a topic every day in business when your business life is like this, up and down every hour, then you're mad, because there's always stuff to talk about. Like I think the best and worst part about being in business is no day is ever the same. So something always came up that I thought, well, I can share this moment. And think about it. Gary Vee talks about documenting, not creating. If you think about that as a way to create live video. Like, just document what's going on in your day, and you'll come up with content ideas all the time. So that's how I came. I just reacted to what was going on in my day, basically.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I think it is hard. It is hard to do that, to come up with all of that. But I love your idea of just creating content about your day. The other thing you can do is you just come up with different themes. So like this, I have 3 different themes for this show. We've got the confidence and mindset, we've got the tech and the gear, and the content and marketing. And then it's a little bit easier then to come up with ideas and just write it all down. So yeah, what else have we got? So, Stephen Healy is watching. Great to see you, Stephen. Hope you're doing well. And Ramon Ray is here as well. Very early in the morning, Ramon. I'm very, very impressed. And Katie is saying documenting, not creating. Interesting. Love that. Yeah, really, really good advice. So, when you first went live or went in front of the camera, and I want you to compare that with how you feel today. Do you get nervous on camera?
I'll say that when I'm doing a live stream or my own show, then I have no issues. When I'm coming on a show like yours, Ian, yes, I get nervous, of course. Like, the thing is, when the great thing about creating Facebook Lives and doing things yourself in your own world is you get to be the producer, right? You get to decide, this is the direction that I'm going to go in. This is who I'm going to talk to. You curate your own audience and bring the right people towards you. When you go into other people's world, you're kind of like, well, I don't know who's going to be watching. What are they going to say about me? What are they going to think about the King of Video brand? Like, all the things that when you get started, you think about, the things that stop you, the excuses that come in, all of those things come back again when you're in front of somebody else's audience. Just like, Ian, you've presented around the world on stages. It's the same sort of thing, right? You go to the US stage and all of a sudden you're this British guy coming to the US and standing in front of a US audience. I presented in Singapore, and I remember everyone told me how hard the Singapore audience was, and it just felt weird because I was in a different country, a different vibe. So it's the same. It doesn't matter where you're presenting, what you do, and I think you do get nervous. I don't know anyone that just shows up and goes, yeah, that was dead easy, unless it's their own thing. If it's their own thing, I think it starts to feel much, much easier.
Yeah. Do you think, and maybe part of it is that we're all a bunch of control freaks, and we just like you coming onto my show, you kind of vaguely know what you're in for, but maybe not really, and you don't know how terrible my audience is and how they're going to give you a difficult time. And I think we build these things up in our brains. I love this from Katie. Yeah. Thank you, Katie. Ian is terrifying. Only joking.
Very good. Well, that's it. Like, your audience know you, don't you? So they know they can have a joke with you. And sometimes I do a lot of guest expert sessions. I don't know if you do those things in people's Facebook groups and stuff. And again, in that audience, because I'm so used to being in front of my own audience and having jokes and sharing my sense of humor with the audience that knows my sense of humor, there's a familiarity that you get. And then when you're in front of someone else's audience, you're like, I don't know if they got that joke, or maybe that was too familiar. My wife says that to me all the time. Sometimes you're too familiar with people, and it's like, because I just assume that everybody knows that when I talk about stuff, I'm saying it with love, that I care about the way it comes across to people and all that kind of good stuff. But my British sense of humor can sometimes come across in an interesting way.
I know yeah. Well, I've got the same problem as you, I think. How sarcastic can you be in somebody else's show?
There you go. Sarcasm, that's the one.
I know.
That's the one that sometimes just dies, and you're like, I've said something out of order there.
Well, it's funny. I remember the first time I spoke in the US, and I just cringe now thinking I did this, but the first thing I said is hi, I'm Ian Asgrave. I'm from the UK. Can you understand my British accent? I can't believe I said that, because I was thinking they might not understand me, because it's anyway, I think, you just have to embrace who you are, just be you, and all our little foibles. We've got a question from Ramon Ray, and it's kind of interesting. So it's not directly to do with YouTube and stuff, but I thought this was interesting, and maybe you've got some thoughts on this anyway. So he's asking social stories versus posts, thoughts. And obviously with YouTube, you can't, you've got the community tab and all this kind of stuff, but maybe what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they're completely different opportunities. That's the thing to think about. From a stories perspective, all stats are made up, but let's just pretend that this stat is a genuine stat. I've heard it is. So on stories, 80% of the people that watch the stories have got their audio on. On posts, it's the opposite. Their audio is off. So think about it from an opportunity point of view. If you're on the feed and someone's scrolling down, then you've got to grab their attention and they've got to make the small commitment to go into your show or, your Facebook Live, whatever it might be. And they've got to decide. Whereas in stories, it's a little bit different because A, they've probably got their audio on, and B, they're probably going through the stories. In fact, Instagram now, I've heard Instagram experts say that more people spend time in stories than they do looking through the feed or through search. So the opportunity is very different. And if you're getting started with video, then I always say stories are a great way to get started. They're non-persistent. They only hang around for 30. They're only 30 seconds long. They hang around for 24 hours. So really, if you're trying to cut your teeth into video, then that's a great way. And you could just do like, this is what I'm going to do today. This is what I'm going to talk about or learn today. And at the end of the day, that's at the start of the day. And at the end of the day, you say, this is what I've learned. This is what I did today. And if you just did those two things every day for like 30 days, you would find that you would increase your engagement, your audience, all that kind of good stuff. So it's just that I don't know if that answers the question, but they're different opportunities. So maybe do a bit of both or get started with stories first, maybe. What about you, Ian? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I think the same thing. I actually, in many ways, prefer stories as a consumer because they're just more real, and I don't know. I think it's that. It's just down to the realness of them and the authenticity. I think I've seen a similar statistics. So I'm putting a lot more thought into stories. I'm repurposing. I'm testing this out. So I don't know how successful this will be, but sometimes you have to test these things out. So I'm actually going to be repurposing some of these shows, little short snippets, and going to be repurposing them into IGTV and Instagram stories, Facebook stories, LinkedIn stories, Twitter fleets. Why not try them all and just see like what works? I'm not going to continue doing all of those, but I want to test what works. And the other thing is YouTube Shorts. Now, I don't know how much you've gone into YouTube Shorts, but this is something that I'm kind of interested in playing around with again for testing. Have you played around with YouTube Shorts? And
No.
I mean, what's your view on them?
My view on shorts is, and this is a completely personal view, I could be completely wrong with this. My view on shorts is they're great if you have a large channel and a large audience. Like for me, when I'm being like with my YouTube content, I'm strategic with it. So I'm always thinking about like what it's there for, who it's trying to reach, and trying to plan ahead. And I very rarely plan as strategically with anything else as I do with YouTube. So shorts feel to me a little bit like it breaks my strategic plan. And when you look at your uploads on your videos, they sit in there across the whole of your channel. So for me, it's the only platform where I think that short form content doesn't really work. And I'm prepared to be wrong in that. And we'll see how it goes sort of long term.
Yeah. But
for me, making it an asset library, a strategic asset library from a video for business point of view, shorts doesn't. I think the other platforms are prepped much better for that kind of content. So why not why not use Facebook and Instagram and even Twitter, like you said, for fleets and stuff for that short form content, and then have YouTube as your big, like I call it signature video asset library. Like that's where you want your best content really to live.
Love that. I think that's really helpful. Sometimes you have to test these things. That's what I want to do. I want to play around. I'm also interested in the technology, being able to teach other people about shorts. So I kind of want to play with it, but I'm perfectly prepared for it to not work. And I think listening to what you said there, I think that makes perfect sense. And by the way, YouTube Shorts, just in case you don't know, they are portrait videos which kind of goes against YouTube in my mind. But anyway, that's just the way it is. They're short. I think they're up to a minute long, and you've probably seen them. If you go to the YouTube app, you'll see like a selection of YouTube shorts. But yeah, you're right, Matt. I think all the shorts that I see are people who have a huge following, and so I don't know how successful that's going to be for me, but we'll see. I can see we've got a fab question from Tim on multi-streaming. I'll come back to that, Tim, if that's okay, because I want to. So we've talked about shorts, but before we get on to like the overall strategy, I do want to ask you this, Matt, and that is, what's your view on live versus pre-recorded on YouTube? You know, I've heard people say different things. I've said like you should focus on pre-recorded first and then do live. You need to do fewer lives and more pre-recorded. What's your view on that, and how's that kind of work with your overall strategy?
Yeah, so great question. From a pre-recorded point of view, the great thing about pre-recorded is that you can come up with a plan, right? Strategic plan. Hold on, let me just step back a second, because you can come up with a plan for live video, of course. But let's just pretend that's not a thing. So with pre-recorded, you can have a strategic plan, and you could plan out your content for 6 months, you know, just as a fixed amount of time. And then you can put out of that content, and you can be sure that the level of quality that you're going to produce is great. You can bring in different things that would add value to the overall video. So let's say screen recordings. You could go outside and inside and make it a really wonderful piece of content. With live video, yes, you can do all of those things as well, but the more complex that is, the harder it is to create live. So generally speaking, what most people will do with live videos, they will sit in a studio like me and you are doing now, and they will create content in that way. They might share screens, for example, but you wouldn't normally, and I say this because it is possible, you wouldn't normally go to somebody in the field and do something else unless you're doing like a, you know, commercial broadcast. So I think in terms of like which one would I do, I would focus on my pre-recorded content first, and then like you said, Ian, the live content should be for a specific purpose. So it could be a live show like this. It could be a regular Q&A slot. They work really well. But again, I think you need to have some kind of audience in place at that point. The last thing I'll say about it really is just about scheduling those live videos. So you're going to talk about restreaming. So I'll add the other bit that I'll talk about then. But in terms of setting up a live show, like if you set it up ahead of time, as you do, Ian, and you can then promote that show to your audience. So you can tell them, hey, we're going to be live at 11 a.m. and you can come and join us, and we'd love to have you, like you've got all these people in the comments, adding some value to this. So there's a bit of a different look at these things depending on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, I guess.
Love that.
I don't know if that answers the question or not.
Yeah, no, it does. Strategy, but this is like thinking about it. What we're talking about here is you've got to have a plan. You've got to do this deep thinking. Don't just go live and just like, I mean, there's, you know, going live, like having a challenge, and we're going to talk about your challenge in a bit. That's good but the focus of that is for you to build your confidence and to learn the tools of the trade. But what we're talking about here is, you know, having a plan, having a strategy for your YouTube channel, and that is really vital, I think, isn't it?
The challenge that you've got, to sort of summarize it, the challenge that you've got with live video is on the other platforms, and this is really to be said across like why people don't do YouTube versus the other socials anyway, is the challenge that you've got is on the other platforms, you've got a much bigger and better chance of reaching a live audience because the platforms are set up for that way. Whereas with YouTube, you really have to bring the audience to YouTube. Unless you get a unicorn and it hits on the YouTube feed or in this, you know, the search page, you really have to bring that audience to YouTube. Whereas on the other platforms, you can just go live and you'll get an audience. As long as you've not got like 5 friends on Facebook, you'll get an audience because people will naturally show up to it. Whereas they're not sitting on YouTube in that same way, expecting live content like that. So you need to really think about like, how can I get my audience from, you know, well, my audience, whether from the email, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, how can I get them to go over to a live show on YouTube. It's a very different prospect.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Carl Sullivan is saying a bit cold to wear shorts. Very funny. I love that. And this is the question that Tim asked a few minutes ago, which I think is helpful. Great question, Tim. Thank you. Multi-streaming versus streaming to one location. Isn't it better to have your audience all in one location? What's your view on that?
Yeah, so this is the bit that I was going to say about bringing that audience over. So again, being strategic about it. Is it better to have it all in one location? Technically, Tim, I think the answer is yes, but that doesn't mean that you can't maximize the opportunity to get the audience to that location. So what I'm talking about here is on Restream, for example, sponsors of the show. For the record, I'm the community lead there for those guys as well. What you can do is you can turn on all of the platforms, so you can stream to all of the platforms at the same time, and then you can turn them off during the show. So one way I've used to get people over to YouTube for a live show, so let's say I used to do a show at 8 p.m. on Mondays, and I'd turn all of the platforms on, and I'd say, hey guys, I'm going to go and do my Q&A on YouTube in 5 minutes time or whatever. I'd love for you to come over and join me. The link to the show is in the description, and I'm going to turn the rest of the platforms off one at a time. And then I just say to them, buy LinkedIn, buy Facebook group, buy my free group or whatever, and just turn them off until I was just left with YouTube on, and then I would go and start the show inside YouTube. So it's a great way to capture the audience from the other platforms and pull them over to that particular channel. So that's what I would do.
That's really interesting. But I kind of also think you're a very cruel man, Matt. You know, just all these people watching,
totally.
And then you're going, you're forcing them. But that is actually, I think that's really quite clever to do that. So that would, if you're broadcasting using the traditional way with Restream, so you've got all the channels there, you can switch them off and on. Hopefully, the ability to do that within. The other way of doing it via the API using ECAMM and other ways, that will be coming hopefully in the future. But I love that. I really think that's a great idea. Katie agrees, saying, like that idea. And Tim's saying that you don't need to apologize. Didn't mean to put you in an awkward situation, was playing devil's advocate a bit. I think it's a great question. I think we should be asking those difficult questions. You know, don't just multi-stream because you can. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so I think you need to have a reason. And in some cases, in many cases, it's probably a good idea just to stream to one place. Certainly at the beginning, I think. But as you grow your channel, there might be a really, really good reasons. There are great reasons to multi-stream, and certainly we've talked about that a lot on this show. So I want to move on to my next question. And this is something that you mentioned when we were chatting before the show on email or Facebook Messenger. You know, you were talking about there's like common misconceptions of using YouTube for business primarily. So I'd love to know what those are. You didn't tell me what those misconceptions are, so this is kind of over to you. Let me know your view on this.
The misconceptions, Ian, is that YouTube is for gamers or cat videos, right? Or music. I think they're the three common sort of things, cat videos being the one that everybody said. Who hasn't watched a cat video on YouTube? I'd love to find someone that just says, I've never watched a cat video. Even people that don't like cats have watched them on there. But the common misconception is, you know, you need to be some kind of lifestyle vlogger, or you need to be a music artist or something like that. And business is it is harder for businesses to grow a channel. I'll just put that out there for starters. But it absolutely can and should be the first place that you put your best content. And that's the thing that people forget about. And the other misconception, right? Or maybe it's not a misconception, it's the thing that puts people off, is that YouTube is a longer game. And when you've got instant gratification across the other platforms, it feels like it's a harder thing to get into. So I'm really trying to make people understand that actually, rather than thinking YouTube is another platform that they've got to create content for, because a lot of people say that to me, oh, you know, I'm already all in with Facebook, or already all in with Instagram. I don't want to add another platform. I want you to flip that on its head. Ian talks about content repurposing. I'm massive fan of content repurposing, and I want you to flip it on ahead and instead think, if I put my signature video, my best piece of content on YouTube, and then repurpose that across the other socials, actually I can maximize my time and probably save myself a load of time having to come up with new content all the time, because I've got that signature piece of content. So misconceptions wise, it's just that it's not for business, it's for cat videos and that kind of thing. But actually, this is a real tool that can bring tangible results to your business from day one as well. You don't need to have thousands of subscribers. You can start getting business from YouTube with just one subscriber.
Oh, I love that. Apparently, Katie watches donkey videos on YouTube, so that's a new one on me. But so,
and goat videos. There's some good
goat videos. But we're not talking about those on this.
No, let's move on.
So, okay, I want to play devil's advocate here. I totally agree with you, but there is this kind of thing. I think the problem is in content channels like YouTube, we've got these statistics, these vanity statistics. We've got the number of followers, you've got watch time, and let's be honest, let's be frank, we all want more, and sometimes we can be embarrassed if you have like 3 or 50 subscribers and you start to look at other people out there who've been doing this for years and they've got tens of thousands, even millions of subscribers. And there's a whole gamification part of YouTube, of course, like some features are only available if you have 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. And so we can end up feeling bad about ourselves. Is that really, if we start building our YouTube channel now, can we really have a good level of success compared to maybe people who started 5, 6, 7 or 8 years ago? I know you're going to say the answer is yes, of course, but I'd love to know why.
Okay, well, I'm kind of smiling because I want to tell you something. Right, my personal brand is called King of Video, and for most people that will pass them by, but for some people they'll be triggered by this because they'll be like, well, if you go to my YouTube channel right now, I have 825 subscribers, or I did have before this show. And so you could think to yourself, how can this guy call himself the King of Video with 825 subscribers? And what I want you to think about is I'm not wedded to those numbers. What I'm wedded to from a business is, am I bringing income from my channel? Is the social content that I'm putting out there giving me cash in the bank? And it might sound a little bit, depending on what your purpose in life is, it might sound a little bit crass to go just straight to the cash. But like, I want you as a business to think about the bottom line stuff rather than the vanity metrics of how many subscribers have I got, how many views have I got. That being said, and I must point this out, I really don't like it when people say they're vanity metrics. They're not. If you see someone with 1 million subscribers on YouTube, you have a very different perception of them to someone with 10 subscribers. And there's nobody in the world that can tell me any different. So they're not vanity metrics. They do mean something. But if you don't start now, you can never get to 1 million. And that's it. Like when are you going to decide, well, I'd like to start when I've got 100,000 already? Like, it just doesn't happen. You've got to start. And that's why I said, Ian, you talked about it being the embarrassing order. Like, that's why I said, go to the YouTubers that are killing it now. And the first 1, 2, 3 years, for most of them, some of them really do hit it off straight away. But for most of them, they didn't get a massive amount of subscribers and views and stuff at the start. It took consistent, persistent action, a strategic plan to get them there in the first place. And that's why I say to people, like, if you're going to start, you need to start now, not in a year's time and go, I wish I'd have started YouTube because then I would have got this, that, and the other. Like, you need to start now. You need to be putting out that, in some cases, terrible content, that because you're practicing, because you're learning, because you're growing. And then once you get some momentum, it will start to make more sense to you. When I've got this really terrible, my most popular video on my channel is this Facebook Live sideways video. It's one of the first videos I did. It's about 2 years old now. It's terrible, like awful. And it's the most popular video. Why? Because it answers a really simple question to my audience. It's 90 seconds long as well. I wished I'd have made it like 3 hours so I could have got my watch time up. But, I started, I put it out there, and now I've got that to refer to, and I can say, hey, it's my worst video. Go and watch it. I hope that makes some sense to you, Ian.
It absolutely does, right? You need to leave the show now because you've got under 1,000 followers, subscribers on YouTube. Isn't it awful that people think these, I think it's how we see ourselves. Actually, it's not how other people see so much. And I think you're absolutely right. That you've got to start now. And I don't know. I'm going to be honest as well. Like I've got one video that has had loads and loads of views, and that was like 4 years ago. And I've just I've not done much since because I've been following the kind of the holy grail, which is not the holy grail of perfectionism. And you've just got to get started and get in. And this is I'm saying this now that my goal is to put out consistent content every single week on YouTube. That's what I'm going to do. And I want you, if you're watching this or listening to this, I need you to hold me accountable and say, Ian, look, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just do it. And this is what I want to say to you as well. And I'm sure you'd say the same, Matt, is creating that consistent content. And I also love what you said about, some people might have an issue with this, but if you're in business, you're in it to primarily, you need to, if you want to help people, you need to have a profitable business. And so I don't think we can have any qualms about that. Making money is an important part of business. And so ultimately that is a really important statistic that is not on your YouTube channel. Is it actually converting into business? And so maybe we can talk about that just after the break. So we'll be with you just after this.
You're listening to the Confident Live Marketing Podcast.
Okay, it's being slow. My computer's being slow again. I'm not going to play any more of those videos. But just to say, if you just joined us or if you've just joined a while ago, this is the Confident Live Marketing Show. I've got Matt Hughes in the house. We're talking about how to use YouTube for business. And I can see we've got some fabulous comments here. Let's just bring these up. Carl is saying, I think it's so hard to gain subscribers on YouTube. 700 subscriptions on mine, but over 20,000 views last month. I mean the number of views you got is amazing, Carl. Any tips for Carl there? And he's also saying my goal is the same consistency, but it's hard when managing an illness, as Ian and Katie will know. And yeah, I mean, obviously I know for you, Carl, it's hard. I think we've probably all got various issues that will stop us from producing content. What's your view on that consistency thing, particularly when life gets in the way, Matt?
Well, that's the biggest challenge, right? And I think this is why I very much encourage people to have a bank of content ahead of time. I worked with a client recently where we were creating the content the week after they'd shot the content. And that is just so hard to maintain because, like you say, life gets in the way. And then all of a sudden, the content that you needed to create for the next week doesn't get created, and then the consistency falls off. So the first thing to say from a consistency point of view is if you fall off the wagon, just get straight back on. Like, there's no consistency police that are going to say, well, you've missed one now, so you may as well give in. You can't possibly start again because somebody's going to come and tell you off. Like, it just doesn't exist. Just consistency is internal to you. Like, you've got to decide what your consistency will be, and that could be once a week, it could be once a month, it could be once a day, every day of the week, as I do with my life. So that's the thing with consistency. But the other thing to do is have a strategic plan. So, and I've mentioned strategy a lot. Like, we ask our clients to film in batches of 4 to 5, depending on the month. So what we'll do is we'll say ahead of time, film 5 videos, send them to us, we'll edit them and put them all together. And then the next month we need to give you another 5. So that way, whatever happens throughout the month, it doesn't really matter if life gets in the way. You've got that bank of content, they're going to get edited, and then you can put them out once a week or once or twice a week, whichever one you want to do. But it's that having that idea of batching that content. That's exactly what I'm doing this week myself, is batching my own content because, as you say, who knows what's going to happen. So if you've got that schedule and you've got that content in your content bank, then you'll be good to go regardless of what happens in your life. I hope that makes sense to you.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. So what's the best way to get started? If you don't have a YouTube channel at all, don't worry, we'll come back to like if you do have a YouTube channel. But first of all, if you've either not got a YouTube channel or you've got one but you've not really used it, what's the best way of getting started with that?
Can I say my YouTube challenge, Ian?
You can, of course.
Shameless self-promotion.
Yeah, go for it.
I know it's on your list anyway, but like, what's the best way to get started? Well, we could just say, well, get started, create a channel, get stuff out there. But I have a YouTube challenge. It's actually this week. We're second day into it. So by the time this airs, it'll be there. We do them every 2 months. That's the main thing you need to know. And with the challenge, what I do is I help people create their YouTube channel, get some nice channel art on there. I show them how to get to their first 100 subscribers, which actually, if you've got a channel already and you've got 100 subscribers already, it doesn't matter. The principles and the strategies to increase your subscribers is the same. I show you how to plan those first 4 or 5 videos. So really, and we do all of this in 5 days. So it's a 5-day challenge. So if you've not got started, like something like that is great because you're with a community of people that are also doing the same thing. So it means you can have that accountability throughout the challenge week. Ian, you said about accountability. I think it's so important to surround yourself. Even if you had like an accountability buddy who you could just say, hey, Ian, have you done any videos this week? Or have you put anything out this week? We in my membership, I have an accountability call every Tuesday. And that's all we do in that show is we ask the question like, have you done what you said you were going to do last week? And if they've not done that, then they only hold themselves accountable and then they come back the week after. And what happens is most of the time people will do what they said they're going to do the day before. Shout out to my last minute people that do things the day before. I certainly do that, but I try to be more strategic and plan ahead. Usually. So yes, the YouTube challenge is definitely the place I'd say to start, which is definitely a shameless self-promo.
No, that's okay. It's absolutely fine. And it's so this is at youtubechallenge.co.uk, youtubechallenge.co.uk. This is not presumably just for people in the UK. This is worldwide.
We've got people from Australia, the US, all over.
Which is awesome. Carl is liking your black and red hoodie, by the way.
Thanks so much. Will is not available to buy. This is a custom made.
Oh,
I should get at some point. I'll have a merch.
You should,
store.
Yeah, you should.
With less than 1,000 subscribers, I'm definitely not. Despite the king of video brand, not self-obsessed enough to have a merch store. But at some point, I'll be able to have one and say, yes, people are wearing my hoodies.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know when that day will be.
No, that's cool. That's cool. So, you've now got a YouTube channel. You're producing relatively consistent content on there. How can you grow that channel? This is thinking, particularly from when you're starting, but if you've had it for a couple of years, maybe, what are the things that you can do to actually grow your channel?
So I have a video on my YouTube channel that is about getting your first 100 subscribers. And really, I think you need to put it into like the sections of the amount of people. So, because I've got another one coming very soon is about how to get to your first 1,000 subscribers. I'm almost getting there, so I can create that video as well, try to do things authentically. But think about it in different stages. So for your first 100, you have to hustle. Right? There's no doubt about it. The reason why we talk about the first 100, by the way, is because you can get a custom URL at that point. So the first 100, you have to hustle. You have to beg all of your friends, anybody you know, anyone that's interested in your business. Hey, if you loved the content that I create, it'd be great if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. And people forget that that's the thing that you need to do. And especially if you're British, you're very, you don't want to ask people these things, but actually you do need to go and do that. There's some little strategies you can do, like if you've got an out of office on your email, you could put your YouTube channel in there. Make sure you subscribe. If you run a challenge, you can ask people as part of the challenge. There's loads of little things that you can do. If you've got a Facebook group, you can ask people in there. But that's getting your first 100 subscribers. Like in that video on my YouTube channel, I give you loads more ways to grow to your first 100. But when it comes to getting to the 1,000, the most important thing, I think, is to be consistent with your channel. So you should be doing one video a week, just one video a week. You don't need to do any more than that. Definitely not less than that. One video a week. You could do 2 if you wanted to, but start with 1. The problem with most people is they start with a too big a plan at the start and then they never do it. So just 1 video a week is a great start. And then you have to rehydrate your content. Have you ever heard this phrase before, Ian?
No, I like it though. Tell us more.
Okay, so you know the idea about what hydration is, right? You're drinking water. That's the whole point of it. So think about your content as a little plant that's sitting there, and once you've put it out into the world, it's just sitting there waiting. And if you don't feed that plant, if you don't hydrate that content, it will not grow. So a lot of people with their social content, their Facebook lives, their Twitter stuff, their Instagram, they put it out there and they wait. And then they think, I've got to create some more content now because I've already done that content. But actually rehydrating your content is all about consistently bringing a new audience to that content. So I've just mentioned to you in this podcast, this live show, that I've got a video that has the way to get to 100 subscribers. Now, you know, guys, that it's there on my YouTube channel. So I'm hydrating that content because I'm giving you a call to action to go and watch that video. The other ways I do this is and this is a great authoritative piece in Facebook groups, for example, is people will say things like, Matt, what's the best? No, they won't say Matt. They'll say, can anyone tell me the best camera to use to film my course or to, go live in whatever? So what I do is I go and get my YouTube video, get the link from it. I use the little app on my phone and I paste it into that thread. I'll say something like, hey, all webcams are rubbish. You should use your mobile phone or a digital SLR. And here's the video where I show you why I've said that. So I give them the answer in short and then drop in the video. And guess what happens when there's all these responses and I'm the guy that's dropped in the YouTube video? I immediately get a higher level of authority. Because the person reading that and the other people that have answered, because some of those will watch it as well, will say, wow, Matt's gone out of his way to create a video with the answer to that question. And that's hydrating your content. And you'll see some of my most popular videos on my channel, I only got 1,000 odd subscribers, are things like what's the best webcam? Because I'm using that all the time in my replies. Actually, just last thing on that, Ian, is that's what I ask people to do when they start in their YouTube channel is find the most common questions that people ask you, like what's your best webcam to use for creating courses, and answer those questions in videos. Lots of people and advice is all about like doing keyword research and finding the best videos that most people are searching for, go on Quora and the audience ones, whatever. Forget about all of that when you're getting started. Create videos that are going to serve you first. So they're going to be videos that you can use to answer the questions you answer all the time, because it will save you time. And then what will also happen is the side benefit of that is your authority gets built because people will see those videos and, they start watching the other videos on your channel or they'll subscribe to your channel. So actually part of that is to Carl's question. Think about that content. Are you answering the questions that your audience are asking you all the time?
I love that. I think that's a great tip to create content that is going to save you time that people are asking you all the time. And that's certainly something that I'm going to be doing. Love that. So we're almost out of time, but there was one final question that I think some people get really nervous about this. They're posting content on there and that they're kind of like, it's quite, it's like a nerve-wracking thing. They're giving part of themselves away. And what if they get like a troll or a really horrible comment? Like some YouTubers or YouTube commenters like are known to not be particularly very nice, and they can really knock your confidence if you get that. Now, I don't think I've got that many yet. That might be because I don't have like loads of subscribers, but I don't know, as we get more successful, presumably we're opening ourselves up to that. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll probably feel the same, Ian. When you get a good troll message, you feel like you've made it. It's like, yes, I finally reached that level that I'm being abused publicly. Again, maybe that's a British thing. But I think with trolls, it's this show, you mentioned mindset in the show, the trailer, the title credits, and mindset is so important. Like, it's so important to know that, to be confident that what you're putting out there, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like it. You can be the best at what you do, you can be the most lovely person to be around, to speak to, etc. Everything is good, but somebody's going to like, oh, that guy's just way too nice. I just can't. Why is he so nice? I mean, can you imagine that people say that? But I've stood in people's company when they say, I don't like that guy, he's far too nice. It's just weird, right? Like, people find, there's a guy called Rob Moore who says, people hate what is great about you. And it's so true. So you've got to have a really strong mindset that when people come and show up and they say not so nice things about you, you've got to be able to know that it's about them, not you. And you've also got to be able to respond, and you should respond in a really positive way. Because when a troll comes with some negativity and you respond positively, they absolutely do not know what to do with themselves. So if someone comes and says something really bad and you say, thanks so much for your time and attention, really appreciate your comment, they go, what? Hold on. I wanted an argument. Why are you being nice to me? So just respond with kindness. It always kills them dead. And they'll move on to somebody else who's not so good with their mindset, who doesn't know how to respond to it, and who will give them something back. So yeah, that's my advice for that stuff.
Oh, that's great. Great comments there. I really like that. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to think about it. And sometimes they can be having a bad day. Sometimes it's usually about them. There's some kind of issue that they're facing, and they're just, you were there at the wrong time. Or I don't know.
And everybody's like, you don't know what's in. A friend of mine says you don't know what's in their cup. Yeah. I don't know where it comes from, but it's like, and sometimes it spills out on you. So, like you say, you don't know what's going on in their lives, and you'll have done it as a human being. Everybody does it. You're having an argument with a friend or your missus or whatever, and then someone comes and talks to you at that time, and then you snap at them. And you're like, damn, I shouldn't have snapped at you. It wasn't you that was talking to. And that's how people are on the internet as well. So
exactly.
Why would they not do it when they're keyboard warriors? Yeah,
exactly. Carl's saying, I had one or two trolls at the start. I replied, thank you for helping the YouTube algorithm for my channel. A comment is a good, a comment is a comment, and all comments are good, even if it did make me feel down. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Carl, but you did the right thing. I love that. We've also got Ronan Quinn is here saying, I really enjoyed this chat, guys. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that you found this really helpful. Well, we're at the end of the show. I have mentioned Matt's YouTube challenge. Unfortunately, I can't highlight that on the screen because I'm having some tech issues. But if you just go to youtubechallenge.co.uk, where can people find out more about you, Matt? And are you on the socials? Where's the best place to follow you there?
Well, my socials are Real King of Video, so all one word, Real King of Video, and my website is kingofvideo.co.uk, which, as I mentioned right at the start of the story, that's where the brand comes from. So loads of freebies on there, and all my blog posts and latest YouTube videos and stuff on there. I aspire one day to have as much of a wonderful website as you do, Ian. Because you're definitely an inspiration for that.
Oh, well, thank you. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Because I get quite down sometimes about my website. I think this is always the problem. We're all perfectionists. We should stop it.
Well, comparisonitis, right? That's the problem. I think, and this is the challenge with video in general. Like, a lot of people compare themselves and where they are with where somebody else is, and you forget about the journey. Like, it's part of it. When I went to Vid Summit a couple of years ago, which is kind of the start of my YouTube journey, Pete McKinnon, who's a big YouTuber, I'm sure most people have seen one of Pete's video at some point. He said, like, people say to him, he did a whole keynote, and it was all about like, oh, it must be good to be you. Like, you're so lucky, or something like that. And he said, like, you forget the 7 years it took to get there. Like, it took all that time to become an overnight success. And so I think when I'm looking at your website and where you're at, and you, like you say, there's other people you aspire to be like, it's just comparisonitis. Like, we forget that we're different parts of the journey. So no, I think it's good that we're leading the way in some ways, in our own ways, to our own audience.
definitely. So if you're suffering from comparatitis, stop it. That's what I say.
Yeah, stop it. That's it.
And I love this from Carl. This is when you have it. You already say. For some reason, Carl calls me Sir Ian. I don't know why, but anyway, even Sir Ian is human. So yeah, it's very true. Very, very true. Well, thank you, Matt. It's been great to have you on this show. I really appreciate it. Do follow Matt on all those places that we mentioned. Just to let you know, on Thursday this week, I'm very excited to have my amazing assistant Tonya Miller. She does so many amazing things behind the scenes in the whole process of my live shows, turning them into podcasts, into blog posts, into social media content, and in terms of bringing the guest and the show notes and all this kind of thing. So do check this out. This is on Thursday at 5 p.m. in the UK. That's 9 a.m. Pacific. So I hope you can join us for that. And of course, on Friday, as always, the podcast comes out as well. So do check that out at iag.me/podcast. Well, we are at the end of the show. I just want to leave you with this to encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Make sure you subscribe at iag.me/podcast so you can continue to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video.
And until next time,
Toodaloo.